Hello and welcome live to All for United. I did click the button this time. You'll have to forgive us. I literally went into the spiel, started it all off, realised I hadn't actually pushed the go live button, done all the intro and everything. So, yeah, that was all good fun. Anyway, welcome. Hello. How are you? It's Saturday. And as Dan rightly said to me when he popped on just a moment ago, United can't ruin it for us this weekend. So, happy weekend, whatever it is that you're doing. We decided that we might have a little bit of a mid-season break, as United seem to be having one as well, and just sort of look back over the season so far, and indeed a little bit of Ten Hag's reign. But to do that, I thought, who shall I bring with me? So here we are. We have our usual motley crew. We, of course, have Big Dan, otherwise known as the almighty co-host of Saturday Night Live. How are you, Big Dan?
Living the dream. I'm really struggling with these questions. I'm still working on them.
This is always good to know. So he didn't do his homework quite as well as he could have done. Danny B, how have you got on with your homework?
Yeah, all good. I think I've answered most of them. I've got a couple of multiple answers just in case anyone else takes the same answer as me. So ready to go.
Danny B really did take it seriously, which I'm very pleased of. And season ticket holder extraordinaire, Mr. Andrew Wall, how are you, sir? And are you ready for the awards show that literally nobody knows about, but yet everybody wants to win?
So I'm all good, yeah. Struggle with a few of the questions, but answered them all. So yeah, happy to be here.
Absolutely. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to go into. But it would be churlish of us not to respond to the news that has broken this afternoon that Omar Barada from Manchester City appears to be in a situation where he has resigned from Manchester City. And if reports are to be believed, he will be in the hierarchy, chief football affairs officer or something like that. But in other words, very in charge of the footballing bits and bobs at United. And we're going to kind of have to get some reaction from you all on that one. How are you feeling? I'm not really sure what to think. It's obviously very bold news, very early news. But from a personal perspective, I genuinely did think that the fact that this has stayed so quiet and it was literally like a bombshell, boom, straight into your face, that's very different. We've not seen that from United for a while. There's usually all of the media circus that goes with it. So how are we feeling about it? Big Dan, kick us off.
Conflicted would be the word. Little bit confused because obviously Man City have been charged 115 times and this gentleman has overseen the club in that period. So now that I just don't understand how that plays out. If Man City are then found guilty, is he complicit? Does he then face any charges? Is his integrity up for question? Which, let's be honest, most rich people's integrity is up for question anyway. So a little bit conflicted, but on the flip side of it, did a good job at Barcelona. We can't say that he's not done a good job at City, but we don't know how he's done that job, whether he's done it within the rules or outside the rules. The only real positives I'm taking at the minute is the fact that it came out of absolutely nowhere and not a single journalist seemed to know about it, which is positive. It means that we're doing things we're acting a bit more like a football club and less like a media outlet. So, yeah, conflicted would be the word for me.
Conflicted is what Big Dan's going for. Little Dan, what are you going for?
Yeah, I agree with Dan, to be honest. I think it's come out of nowhere, so I'm not really sure how to process it all. But I think, like I say, he's overseen things at Barcelona that's worked. He's overseen things at City. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff hanging over Man City, like we all say. But I think it can't be any worse than what we've had previously. I'm worried as to how it all plays out. If City get punished, then will he be punished? You would think he would be. So then, therefore, do we get punished for City getting punished? And the more I think about it, the more I'm a bit like Dan. I'm more conflicted about it.
Conflicted seeming to be the word. Andrew, for you, how does that feel?
I think it caught us all by a bit quite surprised. I mean, going in a quick and discreet manner and getting a CEO in that we needed. So yes, you can't deny the successes at Barcelona and also what he's done for Man City. I remember just before we came on seeing the video, I think he did for City, saying the success at a club is going to be the football side and the business side as well. So look, you can't argue what City have done. You could question it with the 115 charges as well, but like I say, we need somebody who's going to take up that leadership role. He's going to be sitting on the board as well. So say, Sir Jim Radcliffe and his team are moving quick, and let's see where it takes us.
I'll open this up to all three of you if any of you choose you want to take it. Big Dan sort of mentioned it briefly there, but does it concern you at all that we are bringing somebody in that is coming from a place that has got 115 Premier League financial fair play charges sitting against them? And it's not for us to sit here and say whether or not they are charges that are going to be upheld, whether or not City have actually done anything wrong or not, but it is one of those where, of all of the clubs in the world that you could possibly go for, does it worry you that they are coming from a position of dubiousness, shall we say, right now?
It does worry me a little bit. It does worry me a little bit just because I feel like even if they've only been guilty of one of these charges and not all of the 115, that he has overseen most of this. So he has to have been involved somewhere. There's no way that they could be found guilty and him not be punished. So the fact that he's coming to us, is he bringing that with him? And then the punishment therefore falls onto, and we're going to suffer because he's at Manchester United at the time. I don't know.
My issue would be, we talk about morality in football, and NT makes a good point there. That would be my long-term view on it. We need to see if anything he's charged with, if City are charged. But when we talk about morality in football, and we talk about not wanting players at the club for historic past offences, what they like off the pitch, etc., I'm not sure if he could possibly be complicit why you would want him to come to the club, if that could then cause issues in 6 months' time, a year's time, 18 months' time. It could end up being, and this is, I suppose, where it's going to be make or break, could end up being an absolute genius bit of business where we've sold someone really credible from our rivals, or in 18 months' time, we could be sat here going, yet again, the club has made a stupid move, and now he's banned by the Premier League, whoever, because he's been complicit in City cooking the books. Allegedly cooking the books for over a decade. So we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. But yeah, when we speak about morality in football and not having the wrong people at the club and sort of having a clean slate, I probably would have avoided him for that reason. But it's one of them. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Andy, anything to add? Go on. Yeah, perfect. You were going to, sorry.
Just on the 115 charges, but is any of those specific charges against any of the people in City or just the club as a whole? I'm just thinking like Everton, and they got their charges and the points.
As a whole, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not, no one specifically Everton was charged with anything. It was the club as a whole. So
the only thing I'd say about the City charges is it's so hard to explain. The severity of the charges are absolutely massive. So it's not like Everton, who spent a bit too much money. They're saying that City have in essence, conned 5 or 6 different people from 6 different companies, lied with 6 different companies to inflate profit. And I think if they were to be found guilty, it would lead off to individual charges, maybe, unlike Everton, where it falls on the owner because it's just so there's so many.
If they get, wrong, is it the one where get away with 150? Not guilty of all the charges, then Everton and Forest have got charges of their own against them. They're going to have a field day and go, what's going on here? We want a retrial on our charges, and we want to know why City, if they are found not guilty, why are the reasons why? But well, the trial date's been set, for whenever that is, and no one quite knows how it's all going to play out. So we'll find out in the next couple of months, hopefully.
There you go. Mikey agrees with you. He thinks you should be the Prime Minister which is either the best compliment you ever had all day, she thinks you're talking sense, or she thinks as a Prime Minister, you are chatting absolute guff and therefore would do very well in that position. So I'll leave it up to Mikey and the viewers to work that one out. Meanwhile, Connor's not a happy lad. I can't believe you got Andy Wall on again another early morning tomorrow. Well, what can I suggest?
Yes.
We like Andy Wall. He's a legend. He's seasoned to get older, and he was available. So why would you not? Never mind. But there we go. So poor Connor, who's still not feeling well. We still hope you're feeling better, mate, and that you're not going to make Andrew Wall sick because we may need him in midweek. So there you go. Right, it's time. Let's move away from that. We don't know too much about it. It was a breaking news situation. If it's a big thing, we'll just do a bigger show later on in the week. That's kind of what we're here for. The internet's 24/7, isn't it? So we'll just do that. Well, hello, man like Bazza. That be me. That be me. Right. Should we go for the first award? We're going to get what I call the duff ones out first, which are the ones that are nothing to do with United, really, unless somebody chooses to bring them up. So we're going to go for the one that Dan, Big Dan that is, wanted to do. I'm going to assume it's one of the ones that he personally has answered. It is the most improved player in the English Premier League. Now, I've done a little bit of homework, but not a huge amount of homework. With this one, I try to go in my gut. So I'm not going to go off into a big spiel, but I've put forward in the EPL, my most improved player, if I wasn't allowed to go for Harry Maguire, would have been Bukayo Saka. I think he's had a much better season domestically as opposed to internationally. He's been okay, but I think he's starting to show some of his potential. So we're going to throw that one out to the rest of you, kicking off with Big Dan. What say you, sir?
I'm shocked you've said Saka, to be honest.
Why shocked?
I don't know. It shocked me to my core. I just don't think he's been as good as last year.
Interesting. Okay.
I think there's only one answer, to be honest. And I've ridiculed this man for months and months and months and months and months and made a joke about him being absolutely awful, really, really rubbish. Dominic Solanke.
That was my answer.
He's currently third top goal scorer in the league. He plays for Bournemouth and he's been on absolute fire and should be knocking on the door for the Euros, in my opinion. And when you compare it to last season, I think it's chalk and cheese.
Very interesting. I thought we were going to go into some sort of big speech.
Simple.
But, he did rock up on my list. But as you can see, I didn't choose him. But there you go. What can I say? I went with my heart, not my head. Little Dan, what say you? And can I just point out, we're not calling Little Dan because he's a tiny man or anything like that. Just because Dan's at the top and the other Dan's at the bottom, so that makes him a bit taller. That's literally, why am I explaining it? Little Dan, off you go.
Right. I did have Solanke on there. I had two. I've gone with Richarlison.
Ooh.
Right. I think he was absolutely rubbish last year. And this year, I looked at the stats before. I think he's got 7 goals in the league, a couple of assists. He played well against us at the weekend, gone. But Solanke would have been my number one choice, but because he's already gone, I went with Richarlison.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so we have Richarlison, we had Saka, Dominic Solanke. Andrew, have you got a different person, or are you going to shock us all and agree with one of us?
No, I'm going to say a different person. So I'm going to go Newcastle's Anthony Gordon. I just think he's stepped up another level, since he arrived at Newcastle. I mean, continues his form from, the under-21s, with England. And then, with his goals and assists, that £40 million fee that Newcastle paid, it's been justified. And I just think I remember seeing in that documentary, Everton wanted a lot more. And, Newcastle were firm, we're going to pay this. And Everton buckled in the end, and they ended up paying the 40. But his versatility has been invaluable. He's covered both wing positions. Sometimes he's been used as a centre forward, and he's been sometimes the difference maker in games as well. So, yeah, there's other players that have improved. But I just thought Anthony Gordon just slightly got ahead for me. He did.
That's a very interesting. And now that we've got 4 different ones, I can foresee in our future a poll going out on Twitter to see who agrees with us the most on that one. But there are some other shouts, and by some other shouts, what I really mean is Connor has put one forward. He's suggesting Cole Palmer. And then, bit annoyed, can't believe nobody said Cole Palmer. 9 goals, 4 assists in a shocking Chelsea side. He's improved tenfold.
Why did City sell him? I do not know.
So I've watched a lot of Chelsea this season, and he's this is going to sound mental to say, but he's not been that good. He scored lots of penalties. Well, he scored a few penalties, and he scored a couple of doubles in games, which boost his stats, which have all came against relegation teams, not the higher up teams. But he seems to drift out of a lot of games and then come back into games. So I think it's going to sound weird to say because he's been good, but I think he could be even better, if that makes sense. I think if he can start to dictate games as well as doing what he's doing now, I think he's going to be a proper player. I agree that I have not got a clue why City sold him. He said himself that he wanted to go on loan, so I'm not sure why they sold him.
It's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And Connor's like, oh, I don't know what that means. But there we go. NT agrees with you, Andrew. He said that's a good shout, Andrew. Paid a lot for him, and it seems he's finally proving his price tag right. We're just going to take a brief respite from that. As NT's been talking nicely about Connor getting a vlog in. If you haven't seen them, get on to the All for United WFC YouTube channel. We have brilliant vlogs that go out on that it will come with me's, and superb. They're really good. So they give us a good shortened experience of what a match day might be like. But Dave, I'm sorry. What have you done here? Like, I've spent so long bigging you up, saying you've been learning from this is atrocious. Come on. You've just thrown the word quiff in for the very sake of it there. You know, you could have gone for ibuprofen. That might have got slightly better, but quifacetamol, it's not para. You're reaching here. We're reaching. Heart, listen. That's the sound of the barrel scraping. Come on, boy. You can do better. In fact, I demand better if you're going to be sitting on the channel. So come on, Dave. I've got faith in you, fella. Google it. Work it out. You can do it. I know that you can. Right. Very good. So we're going to put a poll out for that one. Let's move on to the next award, because we're obviously not going to decide one here. This isn't like one of Connor's shows where we all sit here and argue for 60 years. We're just going to put our 4 in, and then we'll let the fans decide, because let's be honest, it's your voice that matters, not ours. We're just here to put some examples and some reasoning forward. So with that in mind, let's move on to the manager of the season so far. And for me, I feel like I'm hopefully going to come in with one that won't shock Dan this time, because his shocked face was a bit of a worry. But I'm going to go for Unai Emery. I feel like he's the only option, to be brutally honest with you. I don't think anybody expected to see Aston Villa sitting in 4th around this time of the year. So for me, got to be Unai.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go to Big Dan this time. I'm going to go to Little Dan first. Let Big Dan sit and soak it in for a minute.
I had Unai Emery as well, but I did write another name as well, just in case, because I thought everyone would pretty much say the same. So I've went a bit outside the box, and I've gone for Gary O'Neill at Wolves. I think he's done a good job at Wolves. He's steadied the ship. They've had horrible VAR decisions this season that's cost them a lot of points. They're hovering around mid-table. They should be a bit higher than where they are if you take into the bad VAR decisions they've had. So just a bit outside the box, but my answer was Emery.
Very nice. Andrew, just check I wasn't muted there for a minute. I thought I was. Andrew?
Yeah, I agree. Unai Emery's been managed. What he's done at Villa since he came in. I mean, when he came in last season, and they was letting the bottom half of the table, and then to shoot him back up the table as well. And I mean, you consider Villa this season, the big defeat they had against Newcastle, and at one point, looking like genuine title contenders. Okay, their form recently has not been that great, but I mean, to beat City, in that game at home, and it was like City was so dominant from start to finish. You mean to get a win over Guardiola side is sometimes it is a rare occurrence. Also, even the victory against Arsenal. So yeah, I've got to say Unai Emery's up there, but I want to sort of give a special mention to another manager, David Moyes. I'm just thinking what he's done at West Ham for the last few seasons. I know the fans complain and it's not playing the West Ham way, but I'm just thinking he's consistently delivering the goods there at West Ham. You know, Europa League Conference trophy as well, and I'm thinking what do they want more now? I'm just like you say, I think you're playing all right football there. So it's like, so I'm going to give a special mention to Moyes.
Fair enough. Just before Dan comes in with his, just going to throw out a few things. Wanted to say hello to Stu. Lovely to have you here and joining us. It's absolutely fine for you to have your two key problems with the club, persisting with Shaw and Maguire for years. If you feel that's an issue, that's absolutely one you can have. The academy needing a gutting, you can agree with that as well. Although I would say Joe Hugill's just gone off on loan and started life pretty well as well. So I wouldn't say it's that bad, but very pleased you're here. Do feel free to join in more. That's not really the conversations that we're having today, but if that's what you feel like you want to get off your chest, you feel free, sir. It is an open forum after all. Connor Roberts has gone for Vincent Kompany. Clearly in the mood for a fight today, isn't he? And he said, I'm joking, obviously. And then he went for David Moyes, which is exactly what you said. Andrew, little point out there as well. NT agrees, he's at the right club, shows he can do a really good job. Dave's gone ETH, and I now can't tell if he's been having maybe one too many sherries this evening or what. But I'm not convinced we can say he would be manager of the season so far. But who knows? Maybe that's what Big Dan's chosen. Who'd you go for, Big Dan?
Emery. I went for Emery. And then I had just a special mention for Iriola of Bournemouth. I think he's done a cracking job as well. They started really slow, let's say. It took 3-4 games to get into the swing of things, and then he went on some crazy unbeaten run, did really well. So yeah, I think Emery's shoo-in for this, and then Iriola as well as a special mention.
Yep, Stu agreed with that one there, so that's good stuff. Mix of Bielsa coaching depth, very good. Yep, that's it. Now you're on the level that we're on. Well played, sir. So, manager of the season. Where shall we go next? Well, there's only one place really. We're going to go for this one, which is the underperforming team of the season so far. And I didn't take too long to think over this one, I've got to be honest. Chelsea was an initial point. I sort of thought, they've been underperforming. Then I thought, they've been underperforming last season as well. So was it really that much of a shock not to see them jump back up there? So that was one big thought. Then I had the thought of, could you perhaps say Arsenal are underperforming? Not so much. They're right up there. There's only one for me. And that one, I'm afraid, has to be us. I don't think we're performing at the level we should be performing at. And so therefore, we're in a bit of a quandary. But I wonder if we're all going to go with that, or if we've let our heads rule our hearts rule our heads and have sat there and refused to put us on the chopping block like that. What say you, Andrew?
I thought, shall I put us? But then I thought I'll take Man United hat off and just look at all the other teams in the Premier League. Yes, you could say Chelsea, but they've been underperforming for so long. Even Newcastle this season, but like us, injuries and other factors have contributed. But I'm going to go, even though they just won earlier, Brentford. I just think not quite get where they should be in terms of this season. I mean, before Ivan Toney got, their home form's not been that great, and which usually that's what they can thrive on. So obviously people will point to Tony's absence, and he scored 20 goals in 33 appearances last season, but also he brings so much to the team, and you can understand why, which you can see in the earlier game. His influence is all over it, and that's why he got man of the match as well. So, but also before Tony got back, Mbeumo and Vista formed a good partnership, but it just lacked goals, and also their results they got so far was mostly down to circumstance. Teams they should have performed well against have been poor. So, Brentford is a team, they don't stop performing overnight, and they're very well drilled. And considering they did the double over Man City last season, but now Ivan Toney's back, I don't think you can see there's no cause for concern with them. So I think they'll start hitting the ground running again.
Interesting. Dave's gone for United, but so is NT, but not Manchester. He's chosen Newcastle. and Chelsea. They're both below us, and you barely hear a peep about them compared to the furore around United, who may have overachieved last season, which is a fair point. Dan, I think a fair point, Big Dan. You can't really disagree with what you said there. Newcastle have underachieved compared to last season. I had them to be in my top 4. So where did you go, Dan?
Newcastle.
Newcastle United.
I went Newcastle. Like it says, to be honest, I've got a list of 3 that I couldn't split, which was Newcastle, Chelsea, and United. And the reason I went for Newcastle is over the other 2 is because I think we overachieved last year, which I've taken into account to the fact that we're underachieving this year. Whereas Newcastle was supposed to be on this massive upward trajectory in the 10th. So they're not doing fantastic in the league. They've lost the last 5, 4, something like that. I know they've had injuries like everybody. At this point, every single club in the Premier League can say we've been hit with injuries at some point this season. Us, Spurs, Newcastle, Arsenal, every team's had a fair share of injuries. And then I agree with what everyone said about Chelsea, to be honest. Chelsea I think they've gone to a way of playing where they're mixing youth with experience that's going to benefit them in 2 years. So it doesn't matter that they're going to finish 10th this season. There's a long project in their head, and that's what they're going to stick with. Unless it goes drastically wrong at the start of next season, I think Pochettino will get plenty of time. So for me, I think Newcastle have been a bit disappointing. You would expect them to be higher than 10th, the way that they take pictures after certain results and the way they celebrate, but they're not.
I think we're talking to Dave, but fair points all round. So Big Dan going Newcastle. Danny B, what say you?
I had a list of 3, but they've all already been mentioned. I had Newcastle, Chelsea, Brentford. But then I looked at Brentford and I thought, you take Ivan Toney out of that team and they're probably achieving where they should be really without Ivan Toney. I know they won today and he scored, so they'll probably come up the league a bit now. But
as well, there's a bit of a question mark over it, isn't there? Because he was moving a bit of a.
I seen that, yeah.
He just moved it to the side after he didn't move it forward, so I thought it's still in the same. I thought, what is slightly wrong with it? But I'd say if it was against us, then I'd probably be screaming blue murder. So at least it wasn't against us.
But yeah, I can't look any further than us, to be fair, for underachieving. I think it'd be remiss of me to not mention us because we've really underachieved.
Fair enough. Well, there we go. Some good choices there. So only me that decided to throw our own club under the bus. Thanks for that, boys. Much appreciated. My P45 will be in the post, I am sure. So I don't care. Didn't want to do it anyway. Well, don't click banned, Barry. One banner. There you go. This is the next one. The surprise team of the English Premier League so far. And do you know, I wondered again about this one. It was too easy, I thought, to go for Aston Villa, having just given Unai Emery. And then I really sat and thought about it at the beginning of the season. What did I think was going to happen? Who did I think was going to do well? Who did I think might struggle? And I actually thought Spurs were going to struggle this season. With Harry Kane going, I thought, that's it. We'll see them. They'll be outside the top 6, roughly in the sort of position that ourselves and Chelsea are in, really. And they've not a peep. They've done really well. So for me, I've gone Spurs. Big Dan, what say you?
I went Villa. I just can't look past what they're doing this season. He's been incredible. Obviously, it's the way they play football as well. Although, again, I think Spurs is a really good shout. Exactly the same. A lot of people tipped them to finish probably outside the top 7, top 6 this season because Kane was leaving, and they've done really well. For me, it's Villa just because I don't think you would find a prediction from a non-Villa fan where Villa are anywhere near where they are now, top 4. I genuinely think most of the footballing world wouldn't have predicted them to finish in the top 8.
Teams, again, a very fair point to make. Danny B, who did you go for?
Well, I also had Villa, and then I also had Spurs, so they've both gone. So my third choice was West Ham. I think I think they're the 6th in the league. They're in Europe. They're doing well in Europe as well. Jared Bowen's playing well. They've got Kudos in midfield as well. They've got some good players. They've got strong home form as well. They've obviously beat us already this season as well. So, yeah, West Ham were my third choice.
Fair enough. And Andy, which team has been the biggest surprise for you so far this season?
I was going to go big Dan. I'm going to say Aston Villa. I just think could Emre take Villa to another level? I'm just thinking he's peerless when it comes to setting, the teams up to play on the break, and he's had some of the most clinical players in the league to a couple. Wally Watkins has been flying high. Musa Diaby, he looks like a steal at 52 million as well. So, and he's also brought out the best in the other players like John McGinn, Douglas Luiz, Leon Bailey. So, his previous time in the Premier League, Arsenal, it all came to a bitter and unhappy ending, but he's shown why he's one of the best managers again at Villa. So, obviously, Villa haven't been quite as strong away from home, but I'm just thinking confidence is growing in that camp. And if second half of the season, if they can avoid, injuries like other teams, getting Champions League qualification as well within their reach. So interesting to see how the second half plays out for them in this season.
Interesting. There you are. So there we go. That's our people for the surprise team. Dave saying you can't dismiss that lot down to the end of the East Lancs Road. I won't use the word, which is fair enough. And of course, NT saying Spurs doing okay because Newcastle, Chelsea, and us are way off. I think if it weren't so off the boil, Spurs would probably be 7th or 8th at best, maybe. Again, all conjecture, I suppose. So none of us would ever know. Player of the season so far is the next step for us to go to. Now, we've got a player of the season for United. We're going to get onto the United parts of the awards very, very soon. But yeah, this one is the last one of the solely Premier League awards. And a trickier one, I feel. There's been a lot of players. So I've decided that I'm going to play unfairly on this one and just go for somebody who's been a bit of a surprise for me, because I've wanted to mention Nottingham Forest on this so far. Because I think, again, the fact that they're not in the bottom three and are outside of it has done quite well. And I think a key part of that has been Chris Wood. And I think he's not really been mentioned much for things that have been going on. So I'm going to go with Chris Wood. I think he's just about pipping it to the post because he's the sort of player we wouldn't necessarily have expected. It's easy to say Haaland because he's at the top. It's easy to say Salah, easy to say Son. I think Chris Wood has been pivotal towards Nottingham Forest not being in the relegation zone. So I'm going Chris Wood. Danny B, who have you gone for?
See, I was a bit like you. I thought it'd be easy to go Salah, Haaland, Son. So I know he's already been mentioned, but he was in a different category. I've gone for Dominic Solanke. I think Bournemouth are doing well. He's scoring for fun. And like Dan said previously, there's no reason if he carries this form, he shouldn't be in the squad for the Euros, really.
Absolutely. So Solanke in with a shout once again. Mr. Wall, who's been impressing you?
I was going to say the player that Dan's just mentioned, Dominic Solanke, he's just surprised everyone. I mean, he's been doing it for the last couple of seasons, but I mean, he's the link up in the build-up, the trigger in the press and the goal scorer for their attack. So he's been essential for them for the last 3 seasons. So, going back to their promotion campaign when Scott Parker was there. So, say under Bournemouth with their manager at the moment, sometimes the pressing system is employed. It's gone a little astray at times, but that's no fault of Solanke. His work rate has been excellent, and he's led the line at times, and sometimes that can be a lonely task, but he's been one of their standout players, and I think he's got about 12 goals in 19 Premier League games, and if he carries on like that come the end of the season, there's going to be a few of the bigger clubs coming around going, how much do you want for him? So he might be getting a move away from Bournemouth.
There we go. Fair play. Are we going to have a clean sweep of Dominic Solanke? It doesn't look like it because Dan's disappeared. He's literally dropped off the screen.
I don't want to say it because we're on a Man United fan channel, but I'm going to have to. I'm afraid.
Solanke, lads. He's not on Solanke.
I've
He's going for one of the easy choices.
No, I haven't. I've not gone for any of the players that have been named so far. I base this off who the team, like which player the team misses the most in terms of getting results.
The finger's ready to cancel you immediately at this rate.
So I'm definitely getting cancelled right now. I've gone for Rodri.
I can let you off for that one.
Yeah.
They've played 21
understand.
times this season. He's missed 4 games, and they haven't won a game when he's not played. He's played 17. They played 21. So for me, Rodri, I think he's just so important to City in pretty much every single thing they do that when he's not playing, they're just not the same team. Like they genuinely can't play the same football without him because he stops them gaps that appear in midfield. The thing that we're so desperate to stop, he just does it with ease. So for me, Rodri would be my player of the season so far.
Okay, very good. You pulled that back from the brink there, Dan, because as NT said, not Nunez.
By the way,
Nunez
has missed the most big chances in the Premier League this season with 19.
We couldn't have been friends anymore if you'd have said Nunez. It would have been a terrible way to end. There we go. Even NT's agreed. Oh, no, that's not so bad. He's been one of the best defensive midfielders the last decade in the Prem, and that's why we've let him off. Right, enough of this Premier League debacle. We've gone all the way around. Let's bring it back to the team that we love. Let's bring it back to Manchester United and start off with the Manchester United, All for United awards for the season so far. We're going to do this again at the end of the season, I think, if everyone's enjoyed it. So we'll crack on. I've gone for the surprise of the season first. And, do you know, I've been stuck here in 2 minds on this one. I've had 2 names in my head all the way through this show. The first, Sir Harry of Maguire. And not so much because I think he was a surprise that he's come out and performed well and led the line like we know he can. He's done it before. So instead, I'm thinking to myself, why is this a surprise? Well, it's a surprise because I don't think anybody expected at the start of the season for Harry Maguire to be even starting a match for Manchester United, let alone starting a game in the back 4 and then starting lots of games and becoming the rock at the back that we needed in the absence of so many other defenders. So that was my first choice. But then the other choice that when I thought really who has surprised me this season was Kobe Mainoo. I just thought this guy wasn't even on my radar really prior to the season, but he's come in, he's young, he's hungry, and arguably is our best defender in the central midfield positions. I'm not talking about attacking, but in those central midfield positions could well be our best player at the moment. So I'm sort of stuck between the 2 of those. So I'm going to leave those hanging in the air whilst I have a little think about it. And we're going to go over to, who did I go first with last time? It was Danny B, wasn't it? So we're going to go to Andy, and you can give us your surprise of the season for Manchester United so far.
It's probably mainly for me. I knew he potentially can be good and seen him in the youth games and say that youth FA Cup final, but it just seems like he's taken like a duck to water being in the first team, and now I could say he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet that needs to be there in that midfield. He's just so calm and composed on the ball. He's not flustered in any situation. Okay, thinking back the game away at West Ham, yes, he'd made a mistake, but he's young. We all make mistakes in the games. Like I say, he'll hold his hands up and he knows he needs to do better. But I just think he's just been one of the standouts, and just think almost like what's the phrase? If you're good enough and old enough, and then you're going to get in the team. So I think if it just carries on like this to the end of the season, he's going to have a huge impact for us. So definitely Mainoo for me, but sort of can agree with your point on Maguire as well, what he's done as well.
Very good answer indeed. G Best is here. He's seeing Carrick in Mainoo, which is absolutely great. Dave saying it's one good to see you back as well, Bestie. Dave says he reads the game so well. He's a radar. He knows where the ball needs to be. And do you know what? Fair play here to NT. I think he makes a good point as well. Love the way he starts it though. I think our youth player, 36 years old, isn't he? 35 even, Johnny Evans, deserves more of a shout. At the tender age of 35, he pulled out some incredible performances and has really filled in for Martinez, who we've missed. Fair points. Big Dan, do you agree with any of those, or have you got somebody else up your sleeve?
Oh, I've got someone completely different because I definitely didn't understand this question. I thought we was doing Premier League for this question, so I put Vicario. So I'm gonna have to think on my feet on this one. I'd probably, honestly, I'm not just saying this because NT said it, but I would say Evans, because Evans has come in, and nobody expects him to start this many games, and he's literally doing the best he can do in terms of with what he's working with. He's been a rock for us in a lot of aspects. So I just think he deserves a bit of a hat tip for the fact that he's coming at the tender age of 35, and he's performing in a Man United shirt. He's again, he's probably at the top of his level for his age, so he's not doing much wrong or much worse than anybody else, and he's doing a lot better than anybody expected him to do as well.
Good thinking on your feet there. So just to help you out, all of the rest of the awards are just for Man United.
I mean, so, but Vicario is a really good shout for that, I think. Vicario was a good shout, surprise of the season.
I mean, it might well be a good shout, but it's not what you asked for, is it? It almost makes it worthwhile texting you in the morning, doesn't it? I'll give you a chance to prepare, Dan. Oh, yeah, good. I've got to over-prepare. Let's see. Andrew got the right answer. You didn't. Let's see if I did send out the right text. Danny B, who have you gone for the Manchester United surprise of the season so far?
Right, well, I've went for him as well, but I didn't think everybody else would say him, but I went for Johnny Evans as well. I've got him written down. I've got two names written down. I've got Johnny Evans and I've got Harry Maguire. And not because Harry Maguire is a bad footballer, just because I didn't think he would be able to bounce back from all the negativity. Ten Hag wanted to sell him in the summer. I didn't expect him to play as much as he's played. And to be honest, up until he got injured, he was our best player, first name on the team sheet. But I've saved Manu for another category that we might do later on, so I'm not saying him yet.
Fair play. Johnny Evans is a great shout, to be fair. He didn't really register in my head as being a surprise, I suppose, because we know what Johnny Evans can do. But yes, it was a surprise that we signed him in the first place, I think. So very good. Well, there we go. I mean, if we were going for winners on this one, I think Johnny Evans would have won that so far. Would have squeaked it. So well done. Now, we have got a couple of awards that some might say could be seen as negative, but I don't. I see it as literally just talking about our team and working out who we think's done well. It happens. You sit there, you go to the pub, you have a beer, you talk about who's doing well. You might say this person's had a stinker. And I think it's a reasonable point to say who do we feel is our underperformer of the season. Somebody we might have expected to have done incredibly well that hasn't. Now, it's not going to take, like Stevie Wonder will be able to tell you who I'm going to say for this one. And I think, judging by the smirks at the bottom here, a couple of other people that might know what I'm going to say already. So I'm just going to say one word, move on, because I've said my piece on this already. But for me, the underperformer of this season so far is Onana. Big Dan.
I have, because I've
written somebody else from Brentford, maybe.
No, Brighton. No, I've gone for somebody different in terms of. I get what you're saying about should we expect them to perform and have the expected. I've just gone for Anthony because I can see a lot of people saying Rashford, but Rashford has still had performances, whereas Anthony's done absolutely nothing to warrant any game time, and he's on about 14 games worth of game time. And I don't understand how he keeps getting picked because he's been awful. I stuck up for him last year in saying that he was the kind of winger that Ten Hag wants because he's good at getting back. He works for the team, etc. But he's not done any of that this season. He's just been awful. He can. I don't even think he's got a goal and assist in all the time he's played. So I get in terms of maybe people weren't expecting loads from him, but he's in a Manchester United shirt. There should be output of some kind. So for me, Anthony's just not been good enough this season.
Very, very, very interesting because he could register with me. Didn't choose him. Danny B, where did you go?
I went for Onana. This is a shout out to John Commode as well. He thinks I've got a bit of an agenda against Onana. I just think he's rubbish. That's all. It's not an agenda. I just think he's rubbish.
Are we talking Premier League?
I think it's
Or
just over the course of the season, aren't we?
season. Yeah.
That's how I read into it. But I've also wrote not necessarily his performances, but Mason Mount's been a bit of a letdown for me. He's come in, he's been injured the whole time, he's not played. I still struggle to see what we spent 50 million on. We could have invested that elsewhere. Even when he's in the team, what's he there for? So I kind of went outside the box with that as well.
I can see where you're going with that one. I can see why people would say Mount. Equally, I feel like maybe a tiny bit harsh. Like you say, he hasn't had the chance to play. So to have underperformed, I think you at least got to have the ability to play. But fair point. We all expected Mount to come on and do something, and he hasn't. So I can understand him being disappointed in that respect. Mr. Wall. Now, you've had the privilege of seeing these people with your actual eyes and no TV screen in between. So clearly, much like Dave saying he's also had a stinker at the AFCON Cup, clearly you'll be agreeing with me.
Fortunately not.
Oh, for God's sake, Andy, why do I bring you on? What point are you if you can't agree with the host?
I know it's been mixed. He's been up and down. So, but for me, a bit down. It's Anthony for me. I mean, it just hasn't clicked yet. I mean, yes, he excelled at Ajax, and we spent a lot of money to bring him to United. And I think last year it was season scored like 8 goals and about 3 assists, which it's hardly anything to shout about. But I mean, this season you can see the frustrations growing amongst us fans with him. Just like, I know he missed a bit of the first start, to start of the season because of issues outside of the club as well. But he returned and he still looks like he's planning to inspire, the team or do something that's going to change the game. And I'm just thinking, for the money we pay for him at the moment, it's been a major disappointment so far. But I'm hoping he's going to turn it around. But he's just not performed to the ability that we know he could potentially do. But Anthony for me.
Well, fair enough.
Sorry.
Fair enough, I suppose. I did like Bestie here. He's gone. Karius and Anna, which I do like. I wish he could carry us. At the moment, just carrying his wash bag is hard enough, I think. But there we go. Right. On to the next. Now, this next one is a double parter because it all depends on the signings. So what we've gone for here, we're going to put it under here. The best signing under 10 Hag. You ignore the bit that says EPL, but that would be true. So don't worry too much about that. But best signings. So I'm going to put it into 2 categories: the best permanent signing and the best loan signing. So just help me all out. I'll just run you through. There's been 16 all in all. Let's just go around with the loan signings first, shall we? Let's build it up. Bit of tension. So your choices for your best loan signing that Ten Hag has made are. Sorry, I know what's coming. Wout Weghorst, Sergio Reguilon, Sofian Amrabat, Jack Butland, Marcel Sabitzer, and Martin Dubravka. Go on then, pick the bones out of that. Danny B, best signing out of those 6.
Oh, thanks for coming to me first. Jack
welcome,
Butland, just because he didn't play and didn't do anything wrong. He's my favourite loan signing.
That was a indictment of the list, to be fair.
Now, to be fair, Sabitzer wasn't too bad.
Sabitzer, which I must be fair is where I would have. Andy Wool, where are you going for? If you agree with this man here, I think you and I are going to have trouble. Here he is, that one.
Just because I thought we should have kept him and signed him permanently, it's a bit. I just thought it was one player I would have kept, turn that loan into a permanent deal. And I'm surprised we didn't, because I think the fee wasn't going to be that. I think it was going to be about 20 odd million. I just thought player Sabitzer's quality. I thought he did all right for us. But about me, Sabitzer.
Fair enough. To be honest, I would have gone, as I say, Marcel Sabitzer as best he did. NT's put his being there on loan too. No, he was a permanent signing, 4 years nonetheless. Imagine that. He's going to get a very numb bottom, that poor boy. So yeah, there we go. So that was our best loan signing. Big Dan, what one are you going for? Oh, for God's sake! I can't sack you. You're the other host.
I'm deadly serious as well. I absolutely loved him. Loved him.
For what? What did he do other than walk around and maybe score like twice?
To be fair, but literally
he did a lot more than Anthony Martial. That's what
none of the others did anything either. At least he
I
ran
do
a
more
little
than
bit.
Martial.
So
No,
no,
I'd
I love.
argue
Honestly, I loved
Sabitzer
him.
was better.
And that's that. The goal he did score in the celebration after that made it worth it for me. It really did.
Number one, shut up. Number two, anytime you want, mate, feel free. You come on over, steal the show back over again. It's all yours, son. You know that already. Barry out. That's outrageous. Connor in. Let's go for that one. He cried when scoring the fourth goal in a nothing game. Got to love him for that. That's a fair point. And he was a workhorse. I totally agree. He did 100% put a lot of effort in. Woot, three-legged horse. Yeah, he didn't. Bless him. He wasn't a striker, was he? Work rate was brilliant, but if you want work rate, you could have done that job, Dan. It wasn't about work rate. Okay, so now the best signing of his permanent career. So here we go. Choices. And there's some good ones in this one, thankfully. So we've got Lisandro Martinez, Johnny Evans, Casemiro, Christian Eriksen, some chap called Altay Binder, Tyrell Malacia, Anthony, Mason Mount, Andre Onana, Rasmus Højlund. So out of those 10, where are we going for? Andy Wall, we're going to come to you. Out of those 10, which one wets your whistle?
It's Lisandro Martinez for me. You know, when he bought him in, obviously there was doubts about, you know, his stature. I remember, was it Jamie Carragher and others saying, oh, he's too small for the Premier League, but he certainly silenced those doubts over the course of his first season. Yeah, man, he's been superb at the back, and I mean, one of the key reasons why we qualified for the Champions League, that qualification, and we have missed him at the back. We lost some of the, our edge and defensive solidity as well without him in the team. And when he came back on against Spurs Sunday, it was just the biggest cheer, and all shouting Argentina. I'm just like, it's just good to have him back in the defence. And I just think when Harry Maguire comes back, I'm just hoping Ten Hag picks them two together, because I think they could make a good partnership together. But and you got to think with Martinez, he's still only 25 years old, and he's been worth every penny of the fee we paid for him. And I feel like he's going to play a huge role in probably the success we might have in the coming years. So you only have to look at the effect his prolonged absence had on the squad, when he's been on the sideline. So he's definitely an important player. He has been, and he will be for many years to come.
Interesting. That's interesting because we said it was best signing under Ten Hag. It's interesting because he hasn't really played much this season. So very interesting. But as an overall, it just goes to show the impact that he had last season. So very good. Dan. Big Dan, that is. You going with that? Is it 2 out of 2?
An honour. No,
This feels like a good time to do that, really, doesn't it?
No, I'm joking. No, definitely Martinez. I would say Casemiro runs him close in terms of importance for last season, but Martinez by far. I think Andy sums it up perfectly. To be honest, Martinez was just fun. He's been fantastic. We've missed him this season. I think the poorest form that he's shown was when he was playing with injuries as well. It's one of them players that when you look through the squad of players you want to build around, I think him, Fernandes, and they're the players you're not shifting anywhere. They're what you start to build around. So yeah, definitely Martinez for me.
Fair point. Danny B, who are you going for?
No arguments from me. Martinez, definitely. I think Højlund will be a good signing for the future. I think, for years to come, I think he'll lead the line well, but I think for me, Martinez, everything, everything good that comes like playing out from the back, and everything good that happens goes through Martinez, and I think that's why we've been so poor this year. We've missed him so much.
Very fair points. Very fair points all round. And I have to say, yeah, I also went for Martinez as well. I think it's clearly the best signing, not just out of all 10 there, but out of all 16. So for every positive, there has to be a negative. So here we go with this one. We'll do the same one. We'll go around again with the loan and with the permanence. So Big Dan, we are going to come to you first. Obviously, you went for Weghorst as being the best loan signing. Which one do you feel was the worst? You've got Reguilon, Amrabat, Butland, Sabitzer, and Dubravka left to choose from.
I want to say Amrabat, because he was touted as this absolute God-saving midfielder, and he's come in, and I get he had to play left back for a couple of games, but he's been rubbish when he's played. He's not been good at all. So I'm just going to base him as being the worst on the loan side for me being the most disappointed because it's not worked out.
Very interesting. Very interesting. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, same with me. I think I had like quite low expectations for obviously like Weghorst, Dubravka, Reguilon, but when Amrabat was coming, I was actually excited because I'd watched him at the World Cup, and I thought, you know, he could be the answer to our midfield problems when Casemiro was out, and he come in like Dan says. I know he played at left back, but even when he plays in position, I think he had one decent game against Chelsea. I think he had one good game. But apart from that, he's been very underwhelming. So he would be my pick.
Very interesting. Andy Wall.
You've
seen them all.
Yeah.
Which one must fall?
I'm going to have to say Amrabat as well. So he hasn't had the best of starts, truth be told, at United. But I said the deal's only an option to, loan with an option to buy. So there's no obligation we're going to buy him at the end of the season. But so if he does go, so we're not going to be stuck with him, come the end of the season. So if it doesn't work out, so just thinking going on what we've seen so far, I think he's probably only going to have this season with us, and then he'll go back to Fiorentina as well. So let's say he's been there to provide cover for the United midfield. So I just don't see him, here beyond next season. So yeah.
What do you reckon to this, Andrew? What Bestie said? Do you think he looks? I'm not going to go with overweight. But do you think he looks unfit? There's been lots of chat about that with Luke Shaw over the years as to whether or not he's been quite in the best shape he could be in. Do you think Amrabat looks like he needs to do a bit more?
I don't know. It's because I don't know, like Luke Shaw, he gets injured or like pre-season. It's like or before pre-season they've had their break, and yeah. Players indulge, they want their time away from football. But for me, Amrabat doesn't. Like I say, does he look out? To me, he doesn't. But I say I'm no doctor, and so he's done all right for us. But it's not been outstanding. So as I said, I don't see him here beyond the season. So I think he will be going back to say Fiorentina.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And apparently, even more breaking news, Omar Barada is now official by United. So I'm just going to have a little look online at that. And whilst I do that, I'm just going to tell you that just out of interest, so my loan signing, the worst one, would have actually been Reguilon. I think it was an absolute disgrace to bring in somebody who was left back who wasn't even going to bother playing that much. Ended up playing on the bench. We played a right back in a left back role, and we had a left back, and we just shipped him off somewhere. It was a really poor decision for me. So I thought it was a poor signing. What's this Javard saying here? Amrabat hasn't been given a proper run of games. Neither has he played in one position in the game time he's got. He needs to be given consistent game time in a consistent position. Again, a fair shout. He hasn't really had a run of games. I can't disagree with that too much. Big Dan. Worst signing of the 10. You chose Martinez as the best. That leaves you Evans, Casemiro, Ericsson, Binder, Malacia, Anthony, Mount, Anana, Højlund. Go.
Anthony again. Double award. Yeah, he's not been good enough. Honestly, it rang close because, and it's going to sound harsh because I know he's been injured, but I've not really understood the point in signing Malacia. Malacia is not better than Fernandez that we've just sold to Benfica. So I have no idea why he was signed in the first place when we could have just promoted Fernandez. So they ran close in terms of I've not been impressed with them overly. Anthony's is just so bad because everybody knows that he was valued at 25 million by the last people at the club. We massively overpaid for him. He didn't set the world on like last season. He's a system player and we're not playing his system. But then he's continued to be picked this season. And then, I mean, if we just step away from the football, then not only did he come for a massive fee, underperform, not do anything, he's got off the field issues that could then make more waves going into next year if they're not sorted as well. So, yeah, for me, Anthony's just been, it's one that we should probably never have had.
Very, very interesting. So I can confirm, just before we come to Danny B, it has indeed been confirmed. Omar Barada appointed as the new CEO of Manchester United. They've said the club's determined to put football and performance on the pitch back at the heart of everything we do. Omar's appointment represents the first step on this journey. Brings a wealth of European football experience and commercial expertise with a proven record of successful leadership, hurrah, and a passion to help lead change across the club. He's currently serving as Chief Football Operations Officer for City Football Group. Well, he's not anymore because he's resigned. I know how it works, surely. Overseeing 11 clubs across 5 continents. And prior to this, he held senior roles as well at Barcelona. So our stated ambition to re-establish Man United as a title-winning club. Well, that'd be nice, hopefully in my lifetime. We are pleased that Omar will be joining us to help achieve that goal so that once again United fans can see, in the words of Sir Matt Busby, the red flag flying high at the summit of English, European and world football. The start date will be confirmed in due course. For the moment, Patrick Stewart will continue as interim CEO. There we go. We spoke about that at the beginning. If you want to have a little bit of a chat about that, feel free to rewind us if you didn't catch us at the beginning where we had a little chat about that. Danny B, best signing under Eric Ten Hag.
Worst signing, is it?
Sorry, worst signing. Good job you're keeping up what's going on.
No, well, I was going to say, I'm sure I've just said Martinez. Worst signing, yeah. You can't look past Anthony. The price tag, the on the field, just is so predictable. Turning on his left foot, trying to shoot. Everything's just so predictable. And then obviously we've had the off the field issues as well that kind of bring the club into disrepute a bit as well. And yeah, just everything really. It's just been a disaster. I would like to also put in Anana as well, but it's still early days. I'm kind of hoping he's turning it round. But I just think Anana, we could be looking in a year's time and thinking Anana was a disaster as well. So either
Fair
one.
point. Fair point. Andy Wall, which one are you going for?
So going between two, but I'm going to have to say Anthony. It's just thinking what we paid for him, and like I say, a couple of years ago, well, when Ollie was in charge, they looked at Anthony and said about 20-30 million, and we've ended up paying 80 million for him, and he's our second most expensive transfer, and he's not. I just get frustrated when he's sat on that right wing, and I'm just like, you keep cutting in, and I'm just like, can you cross the ball from, get right to the byline and cross the ball in with your right foot? So, I mean, he's got 0 goals in all his appearances so far this season, and I just think it's just that fee. Just feel like it's a bit, hanging over his head. But the other player was running close, but it was Mason Mount, but he's hardly started any games for us. I know he's had 9 appearances, but he's had a poor start to, his career at United. And hopefully when he's all fit and well, he can hit the ground running. But it's just, hopefully Mason Mount doesn't turn out to be a dud. But, they're second for me. But, yeah, Anthony for me is top of the list.
Fair points. Well made. Again, mine was between two. I mean, Anthony's the obvious winner of this particular award. It doesn't need to go to a poll. I think it's blatantly obvious that we've overspent and the Wall somewhat pulled over our eyes on this one. But I did think of somebody else who would be in the running for me and that's by India. And I know that seems like a really mad, but it's the worst sign ever, because why have we bought a player who's never going to play? If we've bought a player who we don't trust to start a match, we've bought a player where we struck a deal with an international side that he could travel to a major tournament for his country and he could play for us the day before traveling and them having a game the next day. And then he does actually represent them later on in the tournament. So what's the point? So for me, he was a big shout for me as being the worst, purely because what's the point? All the other players have got a possibility. They've all had minutes on the pitch and we're yet to see they end it. So that was my particular choice. So I'm not going to judge Mount yet. I don't think he's had enough time. But yeah, that was for me the one I would have gone for. Now, gentlemen, I feel like this next one is a very easy one. And I don't feel like it's going to take us many more words than just one. So I'm going to put this award up on the pitch, on like this, on the picture. And I'm just going to say one word. And I expect to see nods all round. Big Dan, you already know the penalty if you don't. Garnacho. Is that what we've all gone for? Best goal for Manchester United this season? Has to be, surely, the overhead kick from Garnacho.
Oh, did Garnacho score an overhead kick? I don't remember.
I think it was played like once or twice.
Yeah,
I'm going to
definitely.
split mine into, well, Garnacho, yeah, I'm just going to split Garnacho scored away from home, but I think for me, the best home goal I've seen so far this season is McTominay against Brentford, that last minute winner as well. Just thinking, just the pure joy and ecstasy of, a last minute winning goal at Old Trafford as well. So I just think you can't beat those. So that's why I've split my best goal so far this season into.
I think you should have to pick.
Well, if you're going to say that, it's Garnacho, because it's going to be goal of the season across the Premier League. So Garnacho then. But
yeah, I'd Garnacho.
McTominay, you say last minute winning goal. I'm just like.
Dalot scored a great goal at Sheffield United as well.
Yes, I was there to witness that one as well.
Well, very interesting. Well, there we go. I'm sure that the comments page is going to be raging with Garnacho choices very soon, shortly as well. But at the moment, they're still stuck on Mason Mount. So we'll see. See if they get caught up with that. Okay. We are down to our final few. We have got just 3 more awards to hand out. The first of which, we're going to go with this one. The best moment of the season so far. Now, I'm going to say my one till last because I genuinely don't think anybody is going to pick the one that I'm coming up with. So, Danny B, we shall come to you first on this one. What has been the best moment of the season so far?
I've wrote 2 down. I've got McTominay against Brentford and the comeback against Villa just after Christmas. 2-0 down half-time. That second half was the best I've seen us play. Well, definitely this season and probably for a lot of last season as well.
To be fair, the Villa one is a great shout. That one was just honestly brilliant. And the fact it was around Christmas and I was with my family as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb, that one. Andy Wall, what for you?
Same. Danny B mentioned the Villa game, but I'm just going to go for a moment in that game. That was Rasmus Højlund scoring his first Premier League goal. Just a moment for him. I'm just like, when he scored, it just the relief for him and for us in the crowd as well. Just like we were just all so happy for him. There's that video from in the crowd as well. It was like just you could see his teammates all running over to him as well and celebrating. Just us, just like. Initially, somebody sitting in front of me going, was that McTominay or Højlund? I said, no, it's Højlund. He's scored at last. I just think now he's got that first goal under his belt in the Premier League. I just see him hopefully continue and then start banging in a few more goals in the league as well.
Did you shed a little tear?
No, I didn't. I was just
jumping
up and
just talking very emotionally about it,
I was jumping up and down at the time, and limbs and everything else.
Big Dan, which moment you choosing?
Oh, it's the Scott McTominay one for me. I could rewatch it a million times. Maguire to McTominay, the two players that 99% of this fan base has absolutely battered for 2 seasons and a half, or however long you want to say, and they were combining at Old Trafford for us to score a winner. You can't make it up. It was literally my favourite moment of United's in probably since we lifted the League Cup.
Quite something. Okay, well, I'm going to take you all the way back to September, actually. If you remember, we'd started the season a bit indifferent. You know, we'd beaten Wolves, we'd lost to Spurs, we'd had the fight back against Forest. We lose to Arsenal, then we beat Brighton. It was very up and down. My best moment, though, I'm picking, was the Champions League game against Bayern Munich, where we lost 4-3. It seems really odd to pick a defeat, but I just remember seeing that and watching that and just thinking, this is the United that we've had, the one that's competitive in Europe, the one that fights in the big games. It felt like a proper European night once again for Manchester United. And, you know, it was in that famous arena in Germany. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? To me personally, it just felt again like, this is it, Man United are back. Not necessarily we're back, we're going to win stuff, but we're back in with the big boys. We're playing big matches, big fixtures, and we deserve to be there. 4-3, we were ahead, we were unlucky to lose. It was a really good battle. So for me, that was my best moment. And, you know, again, it's impossible to be wrong on this one. I've got no jokes to make for people on that. I think that was undoubtedly for me the best one. And then we come to this, the worst moment. And ironically, the worst moment for me was the opposite fixture. It was Manchester United at home to Bayern Munich, a game where we had to win to stand any chance of progressing in the Champions League. And we just a damp squib. It was just didn't feel like it had the fire, didn't feel like it had the energy. So for me, it was like the as Tony would say, the duality of Manchester United, the brilliance of being back in Europe, but then also the realization that we're just not quite there yet. So that's my worst moment. Andy Wall, what was your worst moment? I'm assuming it's yet to come. That's tomorrow when you've got to drive to Stamford Bridge with Connor. But for now, up to that point, what would it be?
I'm going between 2 games here, and they both happened in the same week of each other, and that was City and Newcastle. City at home in the league, and Newcastle in the League Cup. So I just think that whole week was just like United at their very worst. It was like, we can forgive the players most things, but when you don't give no effort and, you know, you're not even trying, it's just like, that's one thing we can't forgive. And just like, you've put the 100% effort in, you've tried everything to score, and, you know, we're just not, and then we can go away like, yeah, the team put a good performance, we just ended up losing, we're on the wrong side of it when we've not even done that. I think I remember thinking that week, I wasn't even angry. I thought, and I shouldn't be feeling like that. I just thought, why am I not even angry about this? I'm just sort of like, I'm used to the disappointment from United. I'm just like, if I'm saying the worst out of those 2 games, is probably, I never like losing to Man City. I always want to get one over on our noisy neighbours. So yeah, it's probably losing to City. Never like it.
Yeah, there we go. Definitely some bad moments there. Big Dan, what would you have gone for? What's been the worst part of your season so far?
For me, I've looked at it a little bit differently in terms of where I think we lost lots of momentum on basically one moment and one game. And I think it's sort of changed the way the season would have gone. And that was Garnacho's ruled out goal against Arsenal. I think if that goal gets given and we win that game, the amount of momentum and positivity coming out of that game would have been massive. And then you go from, I still maintain that something wasn't right about that decision in terms of how close it was. You then go on to lose the game as well in the last minute. I think that knocked the stuffing out of us big time, and it sort of led to up, down, and more issues than we probably care to admit. But I genuinely think if that goal would have stood, that could have been, we're talking season defining.
Interesting. Very interesting. Danny B, what say you? What's been the worst moment of your season so far?
Well, I had two wrote down. The first one was Bournemouth at home. I've seen that mentioned in the comments.
Yeah, popular in the comments.
It was an absolute, it was a pasting at home off Bournemouth, and no disrespect to Bournemouth, but it could have been 5 or 6, and you're thinking, how are we getting beat 4-5-6-0 at home to Bournemouth? Like we didn't threaten them once, really. It was, and then I had the same as Dan. I said Arsenal as well. I really thought that was a season-defining moment. Like, because we played well that game for the most part. A last-minute winner really would have pushed us on, but even if we got a point from it, we would have been deflated. But I think it wouldn't have knocked us as much. But then to lose it as well after the goal being ruled out absolutely killed the momentum.
I think that game in particular, if I can remember it quite well, that is the first time that I can really remember that we put a 10-odd performance in the first half.
Yeah.
We played well, we kept the ball, we dictated the play, we was good on the break, we started to create chances. We was doing everything that he wanted us to do, and it carried on in the second half, and then it just, like you say, a late loss as well, just compiled the misery.
Well, there we go. Vicky's coming with hers. I think the worst for me was when ETH and Varane fell out. For those that don't know, Vicky is a big fan of Raphael Varane. So he's also a big fan of Erik Ten Hag, I think, really. So, yeah, we like watching mum and dad fight that, really, isn't it? But there we go. So, the last one, it's been a long day. The last one is the player of the season. Now, as NT said earlier, this might be a short list, but do you know, I've thought about it. I've tried to come up with counter arguments. I've thought about it some more. I've taken on everything that I've read in Twitter, everything that I see on the statistics. I've taken emotion out of it, and every time I do that, I come up with the same answer: Bruno Fernandes. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Big Danny B.
I can't. Oh wait, look.
This me. I've gone for Garnacho. I think last season he come in the team and he was in and out, and he was kind of scoring, and he was missing a game, and then he was back in the team. And this season now, I can't imagine anybody else starting on that side. Like, he's made that position his own. I think he's the bright spark going forward. Rashford's in and out of games, Højlund's in and out of games, but Garnacho generally does make things happen. Yeah, he can be inconsistent. He's still young. He's just going to get better and better with games. So for me, I went a bit outside the box and I went for Garnacho.
Fair point. Garnacho is a very good shout. I'll give you that. Vicky's agreed with you. Also pointed out Højlund, just because he wants to put out a performance. So, again, a reasonable shout there. Andy Wall, like I say, you've been there, you're live, you've seen them. Who stood out for you?
I'm going to have to give it to Bruno as well. I just think,
Now, that's actually your answer about half hour ago. Why did you disagree with me then?
I'm agreeing with you now. Look, Bruno, he splits opinions at times. Just he's willing to take that risk, on the ball, And sometimes it doesn't come off, sometimes it does, but at least he's willing to, play those risks. And he's an integral part, of that, the midfield play and getting us on the attack. But his energy, his ambition, and his application, there's the ability, when we've been on the brink of him pulling us back from it. And he's proved it, He had the match-winning goals, Forest at home, Burnley and Fulham away. So he continues to be the main man, and he's been worth every penny that we spent on him. And I've also going to give a special shout out to Harry Maguire as well. I'm just thinking, I didn't think he was going to be here in the summer, and literally looked like he was set to be going out the door. But what he's done to turn it around, I mean, the games he's played in before he got injured, he was given like man of the match performances each time. So there's one player I'm looking forward to seeing coming back from injury as well.
Fair enough. Dave, it's the second time I'm about to talk to you tonight, fella. And we've had this conversation. Now, I can easily drop Dan out of the chat and throw him back in again. But for you, it'd be like a whole minute or 5 minutes time out of commenting. I don't want to do that to you. So you know, I'd go back to quifacetamo if I was you. That was a much better message. I know he's joking. It's all good. Okay. Well, that was your player of the season. Big Dan, who have you gone for, Sunshine?
Can I just say, I'm so glad that I don't have to talk about Maguire anymore because everybody else does it for me now. So I appreciate the special mention I ain't got to do anymore. I went for Fernandes. He's just every single metric when you watch, if he's not performing, and like Vicky says, that if he's not in the game, we really struggle. He basically, if he doesn't do it all by himself, there's not many people that's going to take it off him. Garnacho's done that. I agree with Dan on a couple of occasions. We've looked at him to get us the win. But if Bruno isn't ticking, then United aren't ticking, and that's the problem. We need to get better players around him so he can go and do what he should be doing. I've mentioned this on a show previous. Kevin De Bruyne at City is not expected to do what Bruno does at Man United, and it feels like we're wasting him. And I watched half a decade of Wayne Rooney being wasted playing centre midfield, left back, right wing, right mid, wherever they could fit him in, and because he would do it. And you don't get the best out of the player just because he'll do it. And this is what we're doing with Fernandes. He's been shoehorned into central midfield, and he's not central midfield. He should be up in front of a two or dictating the play just in behind the striker, not where he's being asked to play now or even on the right that we had last season. We're wasting him. I think there's going to be a genuine discussion in a few years of how we wasted such a talent that is Fernandes. Like, he's still top in pretty much every metric for a midfielder, and he's at a club that just isn't doing it. If you put him at Liverpool or City, he would be on some serious numbers. So I hope we saw it for him, to be honest, because he deserves more medals than he's got.
I think with Bruno as well, I think he's the one player that if you asked any of the top teams in the league or even in the world, that they would go, we'll have Bruno. Like you would say Rashford, and some of them would maybe go, yeah, we'd have him, but not everybody. But I think everybody would have Bruno.
And you know what, Dan? As I was sitting there making my decision, when I said I took all the emotion out, took all of that out of it, this is what I was thinking. When you put our team up, player for player, against the top teams in Europe and in just the Premier League, if you're looking for somebody to take, are they taking Onana? Probably not. Are they taking Wan-Bissaka or Dalot? Probably not. Are they taking, Vicky, Varane, Maguire? They might take Martinez, but he's not played this season, so you can't pick him for player of the season when he's been injured. Like, just looking at those 5, 6, 7 players, there's no choice. McTominay is not going to be putting up any trees. He's a United player, or he's going downwards. He's not going upwards. That seems a reasonably fair thing to say. And again, Mainu, Garnacho, young talents, not proven yet, so they might be taken, but they're not going for millions of pounds. If you were looking for a player that was going to go at 60, 70, 80 million quid, he's going to be the one. The rest of them are all just sort of either waiting to fire up again, like you say, like Rashford, or they're just not good enough. Anthony Martial, for example. So, where do we go with it? But absolutely, I completely agree. Player of the season, Bruno Fernandes, everybody. He wins with a runners-up award to Alejandro Garnacho. So there we go. That is the end of the Manchester United, All for United awards. I hope you enjoyed them. We've had a good time. It's been really nice. The time has absolutely flown by. I didn't expect it to take 90 minutes, and it virtually has. Although, to be fair, we did have a little bit about our new Chief Executive Officer. Here we go. What's this one? Did you do an award for effort, as I put Dalot in there? He last in training, practicing his long shots, or Garnacho? We didn't do one for that. There was a lot that I missed out. To be honest, we could have done more than just best goal and those sorts of things. There was, best defender, all those types of things you could have come up with. But, people want us to stop after a while. There's only so long people can listen to our voices for. So
having said that, Barry, can I just add something about the Dalot thing?
Go for it.
So it really annoyed me this week on Twitter. So Dallow's basically been staying to practice shooting and practice some other stuff on the training pitch. And he's been absolutely ridiculed for it by morons on Twitter again. And the annoyance for me is, Yes, he might have not be the most appreciated footballer we've got, and he might not be the best footballer we've got. But if everybody had that attitude of staying behind and practicing what they're not very good at, i.e., you remember Maguire in the summer training with Carvalho and getting absolutely slaughtered for it, and then coming back at the start of the season like a new defender. And this is what frustrates me. He shouldn't be getting hammered for it. He should have been getting praised for his commitment to actually stay beyond the cause and. Right, I'm not very good at this, and I keep getting chances at the edge of the box that I waste. So I'm going to stay behind in training and practice how to practice makes perfect to get better at them. And this is what frustrates me about the some of the fan base that we see. It's obviously certain people on YouTube that push that sort of narrative. Just frustrates me. I think you should be getting lots of credit for it, not being hounded for it.
You know, it's funny you should mention that, because another thing that we thought of potentially for an award was, when I say we, I mean I, was your best moment on AFU of the season so far. But if we were to have done that, excuse me for a second. You're getting a frog in my throat, right? You want me coughing it up all over the place. But it would have been last week. It would have been last week, I mean, when Dan wasn't here for a start. So that's always a win. But he actually texted me about it, and I agreed entirely. It was the moment where we were talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because all I remember as Ollie was leaving from Twitter was just toxicity, Ollie out, everything was bad. And actually, as we were talking about it, you know, it really was. I mean, yes, it was probably an Ollie loving. I'm sure there was a lot of people that were, you know, maybe being sick over their Doritos or whatever other crisps are available. But I just feel like we get lost in Twitter sometimes into thinking that what we read on Twitter is what actual football fans think. And, you know, we know that's not true. If you go back to, you know, the Mason Greenwood incident, there was lots of voices there saying, yeah, put him back in, don't worry about it. But actually the vast majority of proper Manchester United fans aren't sitting around on Twitter throwing out ridiculous thoughts and feelings. So, you know, I think sometimes we do rank things a lot by what Twitter is saying, but actually I think it's a very, very good point that we should all just remember that there's a lot of sensible people out there, and the vast majority would be, like you say, giving praise and kudos to Dalot for trying to work on his game, and maybe, you know, I've had a go at the left back situation, but maybe that's why Diogo Dalot was being chosen to play at left back, for that very reason, because he was showing effort and putting the effort in on the training pitch. And if it was, it's kind of hard to argue with that. So the reason for this, Vic, we'll just finish off with this. Why was I not invited to have my award gown ready? You're already going to put us to shame if you come on, aren't you? So coming in an award gown, I'm in a hoodie. Dan's had the same background. He hasn't put it through the wash for God knows how long. Danny B's sit in the dark. You know, poor old Andy Ward, we'd have to wear his curtains if he wanted to look like he was wearing an award gown. So that's why, Vic. But I really want you on next week for this topic show that you've been talking about. So get back into your messages so we can sort that one out, because we'd love to have you on. Matthew, we have spoken about the CEO. We covered it right at the very beginning, so we're about to finish now. So please do feel free. Just go straight back to the beginning. It's literally the first thing that we talk about. Get our thoughts and opinions there. Leave us a comment at the end. Dan's already thrown up the please like and subscribe, so do so. It's brilliant when you do so. It makes our life a lot more fulfilling. So there we go. Danny B, just time for you to give you a little shout out. I've gone a little bit Cornish. Can you give a little shout out, right, to your little podcast that you do?
After that intro, how can't I? Yeah. Yeah, it's called Be the Best Version of Yourself. It's me talking about my struggles with gambling addiction and epilepsy and other mental health struggles. We talk about just anything and everything really that we think has a bit of stigma attached to it that needs a bit of addressing, a bit of more mainstream media attention, and just getting the word out there really.
Smashing. Absolutely good news. So there we are. I don't know why I've still left the comment up there. I'm slacking today. I really am. There we go. Let's knock that one out. There we go. That's how you end a show, Bazza. Started it terribly, ended it terribly. Can't all be perfect, can we? And that was the point of the awards. It's been brilliant. Andy, thank you as ever. Dan, thank you as ever. Commenters, you've been superb as well. Cheers very much. We'll be back some point during midweek. I'm just about to pop to my DMs to see exactly when we can get Vic on, and then we'll know when it is. And we'll let you all know, because that's kind of what Twitter's for. Take care, everyone. Good night. Have a good weekend.